Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to the Next Level, Conversations that Propel Business. I'm your host, Bob Gibbons.
And I'm your host, Stephen Nooner. And I am excited to introduce our guest today. Thanks for that audible there, Bob, or
I just
non-audible.
See if you're paying attention.
Just introduce the guest. Just look at me. I'm excited to introduce Drew Clancy, President and CEO of Publishing Concepts, a company that helps colleges, universities, high schools, and service organizations inspire dreams. They currently employ 315 employees, but they are not a big company. We're going to learn a little bit more about that. If you want to learn beyond this show about Drew or Publishing Concepts, please visit publishingconcepts.com. Welcome, Drew.
Thanks, guys. Great to be here.
Well, we're excited about the conversation. Drew is an expert in culture and culture in companies.
And they have the scoreboard to prove it. 4 or 5 years, best place to work?
Yeah, we've been the last 3 years in the top 10 in the state of Texas, according to Texas Monthly Magazine and
Nice.
the Association of, Texas Association of Business, based on anonymous associate surveys. So,
Cool.
We're very intentional about building a great workplace culture.
Well, we're
Very
striving
nice.
in that direction, so I can't wait to learn about that.
So we'll start off with a little quote, wisdom from others. Drew, we're going to use yours. You gave us the quote, which is, information is not transformation. And do you know who said that?
I don't, but I read a book a couple of years ago by a guy named Sean Aker called The Happiness Advantage, and that was a quote in that book, and it stuck with me. This whole idea of learning is great. Learning is important. Reading, talking to smart people, attending workshops, watching a TED Talk, whatever it might be, right? But if you learn it and don't put it into action, is it any different than if you didn't learn it? And so learning is sort of the first step, but then, all right, what are we going to do with this? How are we going to make it something productive and worthwhile?
There's another one I've seen on there, like something without execution is a hallucination. I forget what the first word is.
Yeah, I don't remember it
I
either,
like
but
that quote. I did find one that I like better that you provided. If you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly.
That's right.
Why, because nobody messes with the grizzly? Is that the point?
I don't know. I got to ask them about that.
Well, it's if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly, right? Be all in, and be the maximum. And anyway, that's another quote I like. You're right. It's all about one of our. Maybe we'll talk about our client promises here in a little bit, but the promise that sort of summarizes all the others, I think, is be passionate. And it's all about living your life, being all in. And that's something I certainly try to do.
Being intentional about it.
Yeah.
So let's get into that. So tell us a little bit about your business and what uniquely differentiates, because, you spend a lot of time in that. And it's not just what I've noticed about, just in my research is it's not just we have a cool capability. It's literally who we are is cool. So
yeah, we're our whole business strategy at PCI is all around being a great place to work, right? And sometimes somebody might say, well, hold on a minute, that's your business strategy? It is, and the idea basically is this, that happy associates equal happy clients.
okay.
And if you think about the inverse, what's it like to work with somebody who doesn't like their job, right? If they're kind of going through the motions, punching a clock, whatever.
Department of Motor Vehicles.
Yeah, exactly. And so being a great place to work, having an engaged team who understand what they do, they understand why they're doing it, they like coming to work, they like the people they're working with, that's the environment where you can really deliver excellence.
So what does the company sell? How do you make money?
So we work with colleges and universities primarily, also service organizations and high schools. And essentially what we do, we help our clients engage their alumni, right? So and raise money. Okay. So that's really our area of focus.
So how do you do that?
Well, we do a couple of things. One, we do digital and print directories, so either alumni or membership directories. We host online communities, and we have fundraising services.
So hosting online communities, you have a Facebook for the Alumni Association?
Yeah, it's basically an online alumni directory with some career capabilities, some email. Gives the client the ability to send email to their alumni, things like that.
Interesting.
And so I'm curious, because you guys have been in business for a while. Was your strategy that you start off with, which is be a great place to work? I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
Was that always your strategy, or did you hit some sort of inflection point that kind of said, "Hey, what we're doing is not working. There's another level here"?
Yes. Life is not a straight line, right? And nor is business. And we've certainly through the years had challenges. About 12 years ago, sort of in the mid-2000s, we went through a real inflection point where I mentioned our internet business, and we really were very focused on that. And we built a technology platform. It was sort of a large, complex project. Really became all-consuming. And during that time, we had a sense we had really taken our eye off the ball. And we've always prided ourselves on really delivering the highest level client experience, and we had slipped. And it's interesting during those periods of time when you have those conversations internally, and there was a sense of, hey, we've lost something, so we want to gain something back. And at the same time, what do we want to be? Who do we want to be as an organization? And so it was during that time that we became, we'd always been interested in culture and doing things, but we really, at that point, really doubled down. And sort of the organization we are today is very much as a result of that very kind of challenging period in business. And it was sort of a couple of year period. It wasn't one of these sort of, a month or two. It was an extended period where we were sort of struggling. And but you come out on the other side of that, and much stronger, much clearer again about who we wanted to be. It was during that time that we coined this phrase, "not the big company," which really summarizes our workplace culture. It's sort of a philosophy or a mindset, sort of a way of doing business, which is really both internally, being a great place to work, and externally, really listening to our clients, flexing to what they want, in being, adaptable and flexible and personable, and really going the extra yard.
So that sounds awesome, right? And, I think most, companies that you would talk to, hopefully, maybe not so much anymore, but hopefully most companies would strive for those same types of qualities. So what does that look like for someone listening? I mean, what is the execution? How do you create a culture of that, right?
Yeah. Well, we've identified 4 pillars, and it starts with defining our values at PCI. So we have 7 values, and we use those in a number of areas. Probably the most important is in terms of hiring. we're looking to attract people who share our values. That's sort of our number one criteria when we look to select people to join PCI. So
you have questions around that, like to back into your values?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, each of our values, we have a number of questions we'll ask as we go through the process, and then we use some third-party assessments too, which are sort of looking at that. One of which is called Talent Plus, for example. That's they've been a great partner to us. So, so values is first. Purpose is second. So why are we in business? Yes, we want to be profitable. Profitability is actually one of our values, but that's not why we're in business. As you guys mentioned in the intro, it's all about, for us, inspiring dreams and transforming lives. We work with colleges, universities, service organizations, and high schools. Our job is to strengthen them, right? And as those organizations are stronger, they're inspiring dreams, they're transforming lives through the great work they do. So that's second. Servant leadership is our leadership philosophy at PCI. That's just critical to who we are and what we do. And then fourth is being a learning organization and always looking to learn, grow, get better, both our people as an organization. So those are kind of the four pillars of our culture, what we call Not the Big Company. And we're very focused on those and strengthening those and bringing those to life.
You set like tangible goals. Sorry, Bob. You set tangible goals in each of those. Each quarter, or how do you keep that kind of focus when you're running day to day?
Yeah, it's we do, for instance, with our purpose. Our goal is to help our clients raise $1 billion.
Nice.
So we have a very tangible goal there. We report on that every Monday morning, actually. Pause a second.
So, it's all right. So every Monday morning you have this thing, and I also am interested in your hiring. How do you actually do you filter people by values before you even meet them?
We do.
And how can that be done?
The first thing we do is we give an assessment, and one of the things it's looking for on there is values. And so if somebody does not essentially pass or have a score above sort of the threshold we're looking for, we will not even interview them.
Okay.
And second, when they come in, it's really all about trying to understand who they are, their values, and making sure they're a fit. We're confident we can teach somebody, especially let's say in our inside sales group, of our 315 people, over 200 of them are inside sales agents, right? And so we're looking for people with the raw material. We're confident if they have the right values, if they're the right fit for the organization, we can teach them what they need to know to be successful.
Interesting. All right. We're a little early, but we're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what happens when not the big company goes after the big company.
Stick around.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: knowledge is power. We all negotiate from a position of power and strength, or at least we want to. In any negotiation, the party with the most knowledge probably has the upper hand. And landlords count on this being the case whenever you're negotiating a lease, because most landlords are professional real estate investors and they hire professional leasing agents and property managers. Landlords are in the market every day negotiating leases, while tenants probably only negotiate 1, maybe 2 leases every few years. So tenants feel outgunned. Don't let landlords have all the power. As a former landlord for 20 years, I understand how landlords think and what motivates them. So let me put that knowledge and experience to work on your side of the negotiation. To learn more, contact me at texastenantrep.com. Again, that's texastenantrep.com.
Have you started making plans to take your business to the next level in 2016? Hi, I'm Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali. We have a trademark process called the Empowered Advantage that enables CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs to more effectively buy and manage their insurance. Before sitting down to make your plans for the new year, here are just a few things to consider. Would you say that you have an actual insurance strategy, one that you can articulate, or have you just purchased a policy here and there over the years? If you have an insurance strategy, was it discussed under the pressure of a renewal deadline or considered earlier in the year to avoid fire drill decision making? If your answer was no to either of these questions, then you may not have the right partner on your team. Visit alkaliservices.com to contact us and take the next step to a bigger and better future.
Hi, this is Greg Monroe. I'm an attorney, Baker Monroe in Fort Worth. I'm here on the Next Level show, and I never listen to Bob and Steven on the ticket.
We're back with Drew Clancy, President and CEO of Publishing Concepts LP. If you want to learn more, please visit publishingconcepts.com.
So before the break, I teased the audience a little bit with when the big company goes after the big company.
And what a great teaser it was, too, Bob.
Well,
I'm proud of you. It's better than my confusing one, huh?
Yeah, it was. But anyway, so you guys are really focused on not the big company because it means you're agile, you're responsive, you're providing things to both your clients and also to your employees that the big company or the perception of the big company is not.
Right.
So what happens when you go after the big company, and how did that happen?
Well, we, as you guys stated, we had really positioned ourselves against, we had kind of one primary competitor. And in taking on that brand of not the big company, we had sort of affectionately tagged them the big company, right?
How did they like that?
Well, it worked. I mean, the positioning really worked, I think, in the marketplace, honestly. And so as we started to really kind of hit our stride and take on new accounts and so forth, it actually corresponded to a time when they had been sold to a private equity firm. And looking back, I think they took their eye off the ball a little bit. And so last year, we had the opportunity essentially to acquire our biggest competitor. And again, so not the big company acquired the big company.
The big company.
And but which is interesting on, I think, a couple of different levels. But again, culture for us, workplace culture, being a great place to work, is really primary for us. And so I'll be honest, our CFO was a big driver for that. Was excited about doing that. I was a little hesitant at first because we'd been so intentional about building our workplace culture and being a great place to work. But as we kind of went through the due diligence process, as we got to know some of kind of their key folks on their side, I became more confident that our culture was something that would be attractive to them. And so over the last 18 months, we've been very intentional about so when somebody joins our organization, our onboarding day, which is something we do well, we call it not the typical first day at work. And as CEO, I try and spend a majority of my day that day with that new group of hires.
And everybody starts on the same day of the month.
We try to have one day each month when everybody starts. And so it's something we do really, really well. And so what we ended up doing was putting 200 people through not the typical first day at work, which is where we really talk a lot about our values and our purpose and servant leadership and being a learning organization and why we think these things are important. And so we kicked it off with that, actually. And over the last 18 months, we've shared a lot about our culture. They did a number of things really, really well. So we've, again, being a learning organization, our attitude all along was not that, hey, we've got all the answers. We wanted to learn and listen. And it's been, a really, not everything's gone perfectly, as you'd imagine, but overall, 18 months sort of down the road, it's been a big success on many, many levels.
Now, how did you have 200 people do this in a day when they're not all in the same city?
Well, we did it
You
in
brought 'em all into
multiple
one?
cities.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were in.
So you had different teams go to
yeah.
different cities.
Well, no, we brought the same team. We didn't. So it was, anyway, it was 2 different days. We were
Okay.
down in San
Different day for
Antonio.
different
We were
places.
up in Chesapeake, Virginia.
So I'm curious, kind of circling back a little bit. So when you are going through due diligence and you're meeting with their key people, are you essentially core value screening those people like during that due?
That's exactly what we were doing, basically.
Okay. And so then that's what gave you the confidence that, hey, that they're, even though they are the big company, like that they're ripe for this type of culture.
Yeah, it's interesting. When a company is owned by a private equity company, again, nothing wrong with private equity, right? But there's a certain culture there, right? Very, very bottom line focused. And, I think that wears on people to a degree. And so as we talk to people, I think they had been a family-owned business, were a family-owned business before the sale of the company.
Right.
And there was a real desire, I think, to kind of get back to that.
Back to the roots.
And that came through, just kind of loud and clear as we had those conversations.
How long had it been a private equity-owned company?
They had owned it for about 10 years.
So there were probably still some employees there that had been there before.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So merging companies and trying to create a culture or get the new company into the culture of the acquiring company, does that create a whole different culture in the end?
It's a great question, and kind of the mantra we had during the merger, during the acquisition, was 1 + 1 = 3, and we've been our theme this year actually is B1, and the idea is it's not the old. They were called Harris. It's not the old Harris. It's not the old PCI. This is the new PCI.
I got you.
And from a messaging standpoint, I think that's a powerful message, but it's more than just messaging. It's really, we're a much, much better company today than we were 18 months ago as a result of all the knowledge and the great people that are now part of PCI.
How did your clients respond? So you guys have been positioning yourselves as not the big company. Now you're the big company, right?
How do you still have that term?
We do. No, we're and you're right. I mean, so it's kind of almost people laugh about it in our industry. Well, hold on, are you the big company now? And so we're like, no, we are now and forever not the big company, because not the big company. Again, for us, that's our philosophy. That's our workplace culture. And so, it's not unlike, you look at, let's say, a Southwest Airlines, right, who's an organization we look up to. We aspire to be like a Southwest Airlines.
Studying them this week.
And, I mean, today, right, they're a very large organization, but they've been able to maintain, even strengthen their workplace culture as they grow. One of the things that we believe at PCI is we want to grow, right? Not the big company is not a statement about growth, right? Because with growth comes opportunity, right, for everybody at PCI. So, but as we grow, we're committed to maintaining that workplace culture. Again, that's our business strategy.
Interesting. So let's take a little bit of a shift. And what kind of a personal sacrifice did you ever have to make for running this company?
Well, at various times, I've had to take on debt as the business owner.
Personally?
Absolutely, yeah. I mentioned that kind of period in sort of the mid-2000s we went through, which was a challenging period. And so at various times I've had to put some money into the company, that type of thing. And that's just part of, I think, being a business owner. We're a third-generation family business, but in many ways, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. My dad was an entrepreneur, and I very much see myself as an entrepreneur. You're always sort of reinventing, and we're a very different organization today than we were, let's say, my dad, who's now deceased, but when he was CEO, and of course we're quite a bit different than we were back in the 1920s when my grandfather started it. So it's all about evolving and hopefully getting better.
So what would you say would be some key, because, you know, there are a lot of people that will listen to this, and there's a lot of family businesses. And typically what I see is it goes one of two ways. It's either goes wonderful or terrible. And I rarely see anything in between.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you guys you've done it multi-generational now. You've had success and continued growing success. So just a few tips, maybe, things that you've learned both ends.
You know, one of my dad was a great guy, and somebody who I loved very much, and had a very strong personality. But when the time came, when I became president of the company, he was very, you know, we sat down and he said, you know, I want you to listen to lots of different people, listen to me, but at the end of the day, you've got to make the decision, right? And you know, that's the key, I think, and something, you know, again, I have 3 daughters. If one of them or several of them were to want to come into the business, it's hard, right, for the owner, the president,
the leader,
right, to step back and really give it over to the next generation. And I really admire the way my dad did that.
Did he totally step out of the company at that point, or did he stay on the board?
He stayed on the board, and he would come in. He had some health challenges and that type of thing, but he would come in occasionally. But he was no longer, you know, sort of the CEO. He had kind of handed that over to me, and I was forced, you know, and it's not, you know, we had our arguments and that type of thing, of course. And
how long did you work in the company before the transition?
5 years.
Okay.
What about cultural type stuff, right? So like just generational. So I would live with my grandparents and stuff, and I can imagine, like, you know, he was an entrepreneur. Hey, I mean, like I told you, we're very focused on culture,
Sure.
and he would have viewed that as like touchy feeling. So how does that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I could just imagine how these conversations go.
Yeah, I mean, he was, you know, very much a command and control, sort of top down. You know, wanted to make every decision, very involved in which is great, right? And
Right.
The statistics, you know, for new ventures, I mean, that's a great personality to have at a certain point in an organization. But today, I mean, the whole idea behind servant leadership is you really take that top-down approach and turn it on its head. Right, and the job of the president or CEO, my job is really to serve our vice presidents. Right, their job is really to serve and support the supervisors. Their job is really to serve, support, and remove obstacles so the front line can do their job. Right, I mean, that's the whole idea behind servant leadership. And so we're a very, very different organization today than we were, let's say, back in 1995 when I joined. And that's what's exciting to me. I mean, again, that's, and it's not something, it's not, you know, one day it's this way and the next day it's that. It's over a long period of time, paying attention to workplace culture, looking to attract people who share a common set of values, who believe in our purpose, who understand servant leadership, who want to learn, grow, get better. You know, that commitment over a long period of time, that's what makes a difference.
So you mentioned the $1 billion goal. Any other things that you can tell us is coming in the future?
Well, we're very focused today on how can we provide more value to our clients. And again, we work with colleges, universities, service organizations, and high schools. They've got to raise money. And so we're looking at how can we help them do that.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest today. We've really
you.
enjoyed it. For our listeners, please look them up online. And Stephen, what was that website again?
Publishingconcepts.com.
Okay, just
And
make sure
then,
you're awake.
nextlevelshow.com. And we're also on all the social medias. If you want to help, you heard something today that would benefit someone else, please help spread the word.
See you next week.
We'll see you next week.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.